Today we're going to talk about ionic nomenclature, specifically the basics. Ionic nomenclature is very simplistic. It's all based around metals and nonmetals. You have an ionic compound whenever you have a metal and a nonmetal, with a few exceptions. So it's important to know where those are. Metals are to the left side of the periodic table, and they will generally form your cations or your positive ions because metals will lose electrons. Nonmetals, which make up your anions, are to the right side of the periodic table. Notice there's a lot more metals than nonmetals. The way we determine the charge for some of the simple ones is by just knowing where they are relative to the noble gases. So we're going to use those to figure out how to do this. So let's start with sodium. Sodium is on the left side of the periodic table, which makes it a metal. In fact, it's one of the alkali metals. It's going to lose electrons. And in fact, in its case, if you look at it, the closest noble gas is neon. So it will lose one electron. It's one electron away. It's going to lose one electron and become positively charged to the tune of +1. We don't write the 1. It's unnecessary. When you have a 1, we usually ignore it. We just put the sign. So we get the sodium ion. For nonmetals, using sulfur as an example, we'll see that it's 2 away from its closest noble gas, which is argon. And since it is a nonmetal, it will gain electrons. It will gain 2 electrons because it's 2 away. This will give it a -2 charge, which we denote as a 2 negative. And we'll start to call it, with anions, we call it ide ion. When you have a single atom become an ion, we call it the ide ion, so sulfide ion. This general rule of where they are, what charge they're going to take on relative to the noble gases, holds true for many of the groups. Things in the same group will tend to act the same. So if we look at our alkali metals, which are on the left, alkaline earths, and all the metals here for the first at least 5 columns, many of them will take on the charge you would anticipate just based on where they are relative to a noble gas. So, which gives you +1, +2, +3, +4, +5, depending on how far away from your noble gas you are. Metals lose electrons to become positive. If you're 5 away, you're going to probably take on a +5 at some point. Nonmetals, it works exactly the same way, except they gain electrons. So, if you're 1 away, you become -1. 2 away, -2, and so on. For many of the lower or heavier metals or metalloids, we just tune those out anyway. We're going to focus mostly on group 4 or above, with a few exceptions.